I think we're gonna give it 1 more minute and then we're gonna kick it. Nice. Let me just check my screen sharing preferences. Just 1 second. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep, we can.
Yep.
Nice. If I look at any point in time, if I look left, it's because I have another monitor here, but I'll try not to do it. Let's give it literally 30 seconds, and then let's kick it off. I know when we first met in London, Gareth, it was your first time speaking, if I remember correctly. How many times you spoke since then?
When was the first time we met?
On the event, I think it was, when was that, Harsha? After API Days London, I believe, which
Yeah,
was
it's been, I think, maybe 6 months or.
Yeah.
Oh, no. So that was my first time I was a panelist.
A panelist. Okay,
Yeah,
nice.
no, I've spoken at conferences for a few years.
Nice.
A few years now.
Okay, cool. We're gonna kick it off then. Welcome everyone again, and anybody watching this afterwards. I know there's a lot of people who always want to watch these, but always it's about timing. So basically, we're today gonna talk about something near and dear to, I think, Garrett's heart, but also something that we hear from customers as well, and that is how to actually achieve operational API governance for speed and reliability. And like I said, I think everybody talks about this as a topic, and API governance is right now a hot thing, and I think a lot of companies are trying to solve it, but it's always that question, like, how much will that slow us down? So Gareth has a lot of experience with this, and we're gonna go through that today. So we're gonna basically learn, what is API governance, what are some of the challenges around API governance, why traditional API governance approaches kind of fall short, and why do you need somebody with Gareth's experience to tell you how to actually become better at it. What are some of the best practices to kind of maintain agility, which is, I think, the most important thing when people talk about governance, and some real world examples of modern API governance in action. Again, we're going to lean on Gareth's experience. We also do have some products that kind of directly tie into some of the governance aspects. Finally, we're going to get some key takeaways and final thoughts on basically how to work API governance and without losing speed, and we'll have a Q&A at the end. Again, you can ask questions at any point in time. I'll make sure and basically reread it out at that moment in time or a bit later if need be. So I'm gonna let Gareth introduce himself. I've met him. He's a really nice guy. He runs APIs at London Stock Exchange, and he's gonna tell you a bit more about his, I'm gonna say, day job.
Yeah. So recently, it's a wonder if that's actually my day job. But yeah. So I've been at LSEG about 5 years now. I'm basically an API platform product manager. So we have a platform that is federated, and we have API providers that are my customers essentially. So my day job is basically API governance, I guess, and all the tooling around the platform that helps the providers, but also the sort of external facing tooling. So we use Thinio for our new API hub for customers and potential customers. And yeah, we're just trying to fit all that together at the moment. But actually, I was on a webinar a week ago about about a similar thing, but essentially we got 18.5 out of 20 for a questionnaire about essentially how good is your API governance. So that's kind of where we're at.
Okay, nice. Harsha, I'm gonna let you go next, and then I'm gonna intro myself last.
Sounds good. Hi, everyone. I'm Harsha here from the Treblle side of things. My experience has been in the API world for about a decade, from helping developers to startups to now helping some of the largest enterprises in the world rethink how they manage APIs at scale. And of course, every company today wants to ship faster, integrate partners faster, move faster, uh, but without losing any control and compliance and reliability. So I'm really excited about this topic today. And yeah, let's kick it off.
From my side, hi everyone. My name is Vedran. I'm the CEO and founder of Treblle, and basically, I spent a lot of my time building APIs. And as of a couple of years ago, we founded Treblle and started helping people scale their API operations, understand what's going on, solve problems like API governance, and many, many more. Again, just to thank Gareth, really appreciate it. I really appreciate you coming along. This is our second panel. I'm going to use the word panel together, and I'm really excited to learn what you guys do at LSEG. So before we dive deeper into why traditional governance falls short, maybe we give people a bit of insight into how big and complex the API landscape at LSEG is, and how many APIs are we talking about? Are these mostly partner, external, internal APIs? Whatever you can, of course, share.
Sure. Hopefully my microphone's working a bit better now.
It's
is.
cool. It's good. It's much better.
I'm not actually sure how it was working before because it was actually on mute. But anyway, so yeah, I only really deal with the external facing APIs. We have around 150 API families, as I call them.
Okay.
And so you're close to 1,000 endpoints within those APIs. So yeah.
Okay. So you said an interesting word, family. How do you how do you define what a family of APIs is?
So it's basically our everything behind our APIs is the OpenAPI spec, and so one OpenAPI document is an API family.
Okay, MPI family. Okay, cool. And you said 1,000 endpoints across how many APIs did you say?
150.
150. That
It's not
basically.
it's not quite 1,000, but yeah.
Yeah. So that's basically what, like maybe 6 endpoints per API if we average 7, if we average it out. So you guys are
Roundabout.
keeping things very lean. Is that on purpose or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really mind how many endpoints people have
Okay.
per se, but I guess some of them have very few. Some of them are like search endpoints and things. So a search API might have one endpoint, and then there's some that would have more than that. So yeah, that's obviously the
Okay.
average, but
Okay. Cool. So that's still, I would say, more than what your run-of-the-mill average company has. I think if you're talking about smaller companies, maybe up to 5 APIs, and then starting from your level and up to thousands from what we heard. So basically, handling API governance at that scale probably isn't easy. And, I'm assuming a lot of the traditional approaches fall short. And, I think from what we hear from our customers, most of the time, the problems usually include, very slow delivery and frustrated developers or people who are building these APIs. They kind of feel like there's this central hand or a puppet kind of telling them what to do and how to build APIs. And also sometimes from what we understand, there's a lot of difference between, partner, external, internal APIs, governance around that. What do you think are some of these shortcomings of traditional governance approaches, and what have you seen in practice from your end?
well, there's all sorts of things. There's not having, I guess, not having product ownership over either the APIs or the platform. And therefore you're not trying to improve things. You're not trying to improve the processes in terms of the platform, well, in terms of me. You're just treating it as a kind of technical, like a gateway that needs to be maintained or something like that. So yeah, that's why I'm trying to drive best practices and APIs, but also with having product people on APIs, that means that they're a little bit more focused on trying to get the best out of them as well. So yeah, that's I guess one of the main things. There's all sorts of other things. There's not having the open API spec or something similar as like the single source of truth that goes through the process and gets pushed both to the gateway and to your documentation site, and therefore getting lots of mixed up stuff between what the customer sees and what the customer tries out and or uses. Yeah,
Have you
those are
experienced a
sort of
lot of
main.
slowdowns before you implemented some of the changes that we're going to talk about, and frustration from the producer side?
Um, it's a hard one because in LSEG things are sometimes a little bit. I should try not to comment too much, but in big organizations, things can be
Things move
slow
slow. That's
anyway. So,
yeah.
so I guess there's probably not the same sort of frustration as if you're a smaller company used to things being quick. But certainly, we're still trying to make things easier and for our teams, but also for us. So, especially trying to scale our team to be able to govern all these federated teams. It was very hard when I first joined, trying to do my job and trying to check everything. So things like introducing an API Center of Excellence team. I mean, I know some people say that might be a blocker, but actually we didn't have that. And so that means that that's what they're concentrating on is making sure that people get through and know what they're doing.
I see.
And also they are the ones that own the guidelines and how to automate and have been trying to automate those checks
I see.
through linting. So yeah.
How do you see the Center of Excellence team? You know, what do you think their role is, and what their role is at LSEG, and how did it improve after you guys founded that team?
Yeah, well, it's almost like an internal developer relations sort of team, like trying to help them out to get things done, and so that we can have some human face to face to get some qualitative feedback. But yeah, so I think people are very appreciative that we've got somebody like that can help them out. Even when we're trying to automate everything, it's still nice to have somebody to talk to.
Okay.
Nice. Something that caught my attention, Gareth, early on in the conversation that Vedran and you were having is in terms of complexity itself. From one of the research that we do every year, I think last year we averaged out after analyzing about 15,000 or 20,000 APIs, saying every API has about 40 endpoints each. So
Oh,
this is
bragging.
across analyzing a lot of data. So obviously, we are seeing with the lead of AI, complexity of APIs is increasing. What made me curious and what I'd like to hear from you is, be it the Center of Excellence team or platform team, however you want to sort of the central team that helps the broader federated teams. How do you sort of differentiate between your internal and external APIs? Is there sort of a separate process there, or which one are you closer to, or how does that sort of fit into your operations?
Yeah, so they're completely separate. I don't look after, well, that's not quite true. There's a few internal APIs, but they're more platform APIs. So some of our authentication APIs and things like that go through the gateway just so they can be shared across teams easily. But on the whole, it's mostly external APIs, and therefore the rigor, I guess, of the governance process is all about getting the external APIs ready, commercially ready, and everything for customers. and having the support and all that kind of stuff. Whereas, actually, this is where the fact is we have two kind of we have a standards document and a guidelines document. And the standards document is very concise and auditable and for all APIs in LSEG, internal and external. Whereas the guidelines are for people wanting to get their APIs external, make them external and customer
I
facing.
see.
And so
Understood.
there has to be a lot more they need to do to make, well, there's a few things. There's make their APIs look similar across the whole organization is one thing. So it's almost branding. But there's
Nice.
also just that quality control and things like that. So, yeah.
Before we
If
move
I
on
may,
to your new kind of governance model, I just wanted to say on Harsh's number, last year 38 API endpoints on average. I have the number for 2025. It is 56. So things have grown. We're gonna talk about this more on API Days Paris. There's a lot more interesting APIs. So. Let's kick it off to why we're all here and what you've kind of figured out.
yeah, one of again, I just want to sort of kickstart this, Gareth, and would love to hear your opinion as well in terms of implementing this outcome-driven API governance framework, as we call it. So the data at Treblle, we have a lot of data that we gather from a lot of things that we observe. So our data proves why this matters. There are different languages, frameworks, enforcing different standards. So while we might have our own opinions, I'd love to hear from you in terms of what do you have in mind when it comes to defining opinionated standards and decision guides. Something you mentioned before, there are these documents. I don't know if these are PDF documents or somewhere in Confluence. So do people on the producer side go after these documents one by one? How much of this is manual? How much of this is automated? Would love to hear your opinions on that standards and guides.
Sure. So the guidelines and the standards are on SharePoint. We're an enterprise company, so everything's Microsoft.
Of course.
We do have Confluence, but that's mostly for the team itself rather than for spreading across LSEG. So it's obviously HTML it's an evolving document, and as we evolve that, we also have the automated piece, the linting that's available on people can use Postman or within their own sort of VS Code IDE to check out against their OpenAPI spec that they're hopefully designing first.
Yeah.
And also it's within our pipeline. But at the moment, unless it's a sort of a must-have, we don't really stop people from deploying if it doesn't go against all the guidelines.
So what do you do instead of stopping them?
Well, we actually have this is part of what the COE team does. So there's a design gate, but we've tried to automate that as much as possible. So hopefully by the time teams talk to us, they've already got an OpenAPI spec that's pretty much there. There might be just a few things or something that we don't have in our guidelines that they want to check out with us or something like that. And COE team looks at that, but often using the linting themselves and also using AI to match it against the guidelines rather than manually going through it all. So generally that actually doesn't take very long if the team has done the work in advance. Sometimes that doesn't happen though. So
How often do you think, roughly, do these, I'm gonna say, bad designs get into the pipeline? Is it like more often than not, or?
No, they don't. So now, I think the main issue was that we've got a lot of APIs out there from the past
Mhm.
before we kind of were able to have very good governance in place. Um, so that's more we're needing to go back. We've already done this a bit, so going back and reviewing older APIs and seeing if in their next version they can bring it more up to the sort of standard we would hope they could.
Okay.
And is there a general standard, Gareth, that a lot of enterprises like yours follow? Do you use anything like Spectral for linting, for
Oh
example?
yeah.
Or
So
do you
linting
use,
spectral. Yep.
got it. And these are, again, just to understand the scale of it and help our audience also understand how how many rules are there? Like, are these hundreds of rules that your people are linting against, or are these tens of rules, or these
No,
vary?
probably be hundreds. I don't know
Okay.
exactly because I haven't had. I'm not close to that. The COE team owns that, so but
Got it.
it's most of the guidelines, and the guidelines are fairly verbose. So I'd expect it to be quite a
In
few things, but a lot of those things are not must-haves. They're more like this is the kind of way you would do it if you did this thing. So
do do you, like, in this outcome driven kind of concept, do you then also have checks for design time governance and runtime governance? Meaning, I guess the CI/CD pipeline could fall into, well, I wouldn't say necessarily design, but at least it doesn't go to production. Do you also have something on when you're running in production to verify that all the work that you guys did in pre-production is now reflected in production?
so actually the design step is prior to deploying anything
Mm-hmm.
to pre-production.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another, well, actually, in our new in our new system, there is a check before production to make sure there's no difference, and if there's a difference, it won't deploy it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all automated. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
um, in our earlier version, it was a very trusted relationship in terms of that. So, um, but often, but they had to kind of ask our team to tick a box in order for it to be deployed to production. So usually the API COE team would get wind of something going to production and just double check it. But yeah.
And one of the things that I see listed here is empowering teams to self-serve. We often at that scale see a problem of reusability, meaning how do you prevent people from rebuilding these APIs and endpoints? Is the catalog enough? Do they go in and discover? Is this a part of the playbook? Or how do you go about kind of reducing the amount of effort there is across building new APIs or new endpoints?
Um, well, in terms of the APIs themselves and what they do, there's not really going to be much overlap usually, because they usually the sort of product manager or whatever owns a particular area, and therefore they know all the APIs in that area, so they're not going to build a new one that they've already built. So we don't tend to get that on that issue so much. Perhaps something that we are looking into but haven't solved for yet is in the design process having, I guess, almost a modular way of doing things. So in terms of, that you can use with something like TypeSpec, where you're pulling in things that people have already built, so that you're not, building an API from scratch.
I see. I see.
Yeah.
I see. And if we move on from, like, what this notion of outcome-driven API governance is to what are some of the benefits of implementing such a kind of model. If we go over it, of course, it's going to be faster delivery, fewer bottlenecks, consistency at scale, lowering the risk, especially in your industry. Of course, a better developer experience. Are there examples that you can give us basically where you've kind of have some data around, hey, this is after we implemented this, we were able to reduce X something or similar?
I don't have any metrics per se on the timelines that the sort of the improvement over time. We didn't release all this in one big thing either, so it was very incremental. What there might be is quite a difference between the V1 process and the V2 process, which isn't fully there yet. So that would definitely be something I'd try and baseline and then look at that. But
Which of these then do you think has the most impact on LSEG and your ability as a team to execute on building better APIs?
Yeah, so for me, the automation is about people concentrating on the APIs as products and not having to deal with the I guess the underlying things like the guy, making sure that they're against the guidelines or something like that. If you automate all that, then people don't have to worry about things like that, and they can worry more about why are we building this API, and I really want to get to the point where we've got all the tooling to so that people can design, so that product managers can design APIs at the beginning based on a business need, rather than this being some sort of technical process. Obviously, there's still, APIs are still something that's technical, but I think a lot of it can be automated, and we potentially don't even need people to be building the back ends for these APIs, especially because we're mostly about data. And so it's maybe more about pulling together the right data for a particular product that's an API and pushing that through. So yeah, that's kind of my focus rather than per se making things quicker for
I
people.
see.
So I haven't really been measuring that personally, but I mean it's been pretty in terms of feedback from people. People very much appreciate having say the automation in terms of the guidelines. So
Of course. When we're talking about
What I'm
automation, go ahead, Harsha.
No, very fascinating to hear that. What I'm hearing is from you, Gareth, that a lot of uh, the API development or even governance, for that matter, is very commercial led or business led, where the product owners or product managers take the lead and run with it, as opposed to it being led by development teams, like we see it in a lot of places, which is really nice.
well, I'd
And
just like to caveat that by that's my ideal situation. And that's not
okay,
necessarily 100% how it happens right now. But yeah, we do have generally there's some sort of product person somewhere that I
I'm
can
sure,
try
yeah.
and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. We keep hearing all of this very often, and I think with AI coming into play, I think more product managers will be enabled now to actually write those open API specs or actually start designing APIs
hmm
and be closer to those not just building user stories, but also actually building APIs themselves.
hmm
So. At some point, I'd also like to, as we move on to the conversation, bring in our product owners also tied in with commercial goals or revenue goals or partner goals, whether it is experience or revenue or anything like that, or is it purely focused on development and user experience itself?
Sorry, I want in terms of the product's involvement.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Do they have a big say in the APIs? Or they kind of alongside the business team? Do they shape the future of how which APIs get built, how, etc.?
Yeah, yes. Some teams more than others, but yes, there's definitely an ability for product managers in LSEG to drive the roadmaps for their own APIs. Yep.
Okay. When we speak about automation, one of the products that we have is basically uh, uh, an API scoring product, which essentially allows you to get an automated score of your API, either in design time or runtime. It's also it also works on customized spectral rules, and we know basically it speeds people up a lot. Do you also implement some kind of a scoring system? By the way, this is a screenshot from our product, but what I wanted to focus on is how do you essentially how easy it is for developers to basically, or producers to get feedback after the CI/CD pipeline or something like that. I'm wondering, like I said, do you have some sort of a scoring? Do they get like an overview? Sorry, like we give out right here per category and then per test or something similar?
No, we haven't abstracted it out like that. So it's
Okay.
purely whatever they get back from Spectral at the
I
moment.
see. I see. So it's mostly then CLI driven, right?
Mm,
Okay,
yeah,
I see. And that's enough for most people, I assume.
yeah, yeah. At
I
the
see.
moment,
Of
obviously,
course.
it's all they know at the moment, mostly. Um, but yeah, certainly want to head more towards this sort of thing, especially with getting more and more, as we're talking about product people involved, they're not going to want to wade through all, they're not going to,
All the chicks.
yeah.
Do you think internally product and business folks understand an interface like Spectral, or would something like this be more interesting to them?
That's definitely going to be more interesting to business people.
Of course,
Yeah.
that's basically what we also hear. It's very interesting. And you also said that the spectral rules are around 100. I'm wondering, are these like standard rules, or I'm gonna say simple rules, or do you guys have like a lot of custom functions or something like that?
Um, I'd have to say we probably wrote a lot of them.
Oh
Um,
wow.
uh, I mean, there's sort of standard things in there in terms of versioning and all that kind of thing. But I guess the way we've potentially written some things are definitely custom.
Okay. Now,
Just
going on to the best practices for outcome-driven API governance, what would you say are the top best practices based on your experience so far?
Um, I guess actually, so I think from my perspective, if you design first, then you've got a lot of stuff covered off. Um, and it's a lot less painful for everybody. But in order to get there, you have to have a lot of, I think, a lot of sort of standardized tooling across, and you can't just expect teams to do it. I think we had, I've learned this the hard way of the fact that we kept out of what the teams did because we're a federated platform. We're like, I don't care how you get to us, in terms of how you build your APIs or whatever. That's up to you. Come to us when you need to, when you want an external API. But the problem with that is that it's sort of the step three, the building the culture. It's part of the culture actually. So if you don't have a culture of design first, um, then it makes it way harder and things. There's not much point in the automating thing doesn't speed up things much if they've already built a back end and they have to go away and do more building of that back end because they haven't passed some of the guidelines. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to shifting left with automation, is the biggest kind of impact and the best practice is just to shift left or to automate things, in your opinion?
I think it's up to where I think you've got to kind of map out what you want from your. So, like you should design an API, you should design your governance process. You should
Mm-hmm.
design how you want your platform to work for people. So, why do you have a platform? Who's it for? What are they going to do? What are they going to need to do to get an API live? So ideally, you would design that first, um, and therefore, and then put in the automation you think is going to be the most impactful and take out the most pain points for people.
Okay. Okay. And we hear a lot from customers at your scale, and companies of your scale, of this culture of ownership. Is this mostly from the producer side, or is it both on the producer and kind of governing side, or center of excellence side, or product side? What would you say around that?
Or as
Yeah,
a lot of people might call it, the police side.
yeah, I think I might have called it that at some other point. Um, I think we're trying to enable people and be that a bit like a product manager generally does, kind of be that servant leader, but a servant platform. Whereas the ownership of the APIs really rests with the teams, and we try and keep out of that, but at the same time try and help them, I think, is the main thing. We're trying to enable something, we're not trying to make something hard for them. So obviously, yeah, it's a bit of a balance. Sometimes, I mean, you've got to decide how pragmatic you're going to be, because ultimately your outcome is actually that you want something um, that's for the business in terms of making everything look like it's from the one company. So yeah.
Of
Hmm.
course. And our developers are embracing this culture. Are you seeing that shift happening within LSEG? And what sort of, I'm curious to hear, and a lot of organizations at your side, I'm sure, will love to hear in terms of how you keep that developer motivation up, where they have this sense of ownership as they're moving to a design first approach. Because I'm not sure if any developer would wake up and say, hey, I'm really excited to write an OpenAPI spec today. So I'd love to hear what that shift is looking like.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing. So I'm not sure that anybody should necessarily write an OpenAPI spec. Um, I guess that's one thing where, as you're pointing out about AI, I mean,
Yeah.
uh, there's a few things, even without AI, people should be using a template and adding stuff that they need to add to that template, not doing something from scratch, because that's one of these things that makes it harder. It's almost like an automation, but without any automation. Um, so yeah, it makes it harder for everybody. It makes it better for you if you've given them a template, because it's already saying, okay, so this is how we think that it should be laid out. Um, and these are some examples. Um, but really, I mean, I guess with AI, you can just say, well, I need these. Here's the template. I need these. This API needs to do this and this. And then AI can just add that to your OpenAPI spec. And you can put the guidelines potentially in with that as well, and it just pop out the other side. But
I agree. I completely agree there. Yeah.
Okay, well, to kind of summarize some of the best practices before we go to some of the questions that we have. So basically, I guess the toughest job there to do is to balance speed and reliability in this kind of new world of API governance. Would you say that's the toughest thing to keep everybody happy, the producer side, the police side, as well as people that have to do these checks and automate these things?
Yeah, well, I think this is where I guess being sort of the whole product thing comes in for me, is that an API isn't a project, so you're not getting it live and then that's it. It's a long-lived thing. Um, so part of these gates is making sure that you've got things all in a line before you get it live, so that you're not having to deal with customer complaints or anything like that. Yeah, so for me, it's yeah. So even our gates are actually federated, so we don't necessarily look after all the gates. It's the sort of teams that are actually responsible for those areas. So security looks after this security stuff, and quality person, QA person looks after the quality gate and all that kind of stuff. Um, so they're there for a reason, and people understand why they need to make sure that their APIs go out like this. I think the thing is with APIs is that you really don't want to have to version them if possible. Maybe in this wonderful world of AI, it won't matter so much. I don't know, but certainly as it stands, yeah, you really don't want to have to, well, deal with having to try and get customers from one version to the other and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
What do you think about AI and these, machines accessing and calling APIs? Do you think this is going to be, predominantly the future in the next 5 to 10 years, or are we still going to see a lot of manual implementation by humans?
I think it's going to get more common. I don't know whether it will take over everything. There'll still have to be direct implementations, I think. It's just a matter of how helpful AI can be in doing those integrations. So that's another. So that's it's like either you've got an agent wanting to access your APIs, but then what if there's more of a partnership there, and actually that other company wants to integrate with your APIs, but actually your APIs are more for them or something like that. I don't know, but you don't. I feel like you have maybe the MCP server is something that you generally use as an agentic, integration, but perhaps APIs become more of a specialist thing. I don't know.
I see.
We'll see.
Okay. So to wrap up the last two, is it more important to define a minimal style guide and enforce it in pipelines, or to kind of go in and over control everything and build a lot of stuff in? What do you think? Is it better to have something or nothing when it comes to API governance?
It's definitely. Sorry, go ahead.
And is it better to implement it sooner rather than later?
Yeah, so I think that's actually the more important thing, is implement it from day one, because you don't want any APIs out there that haven't had some sort of governance across them, because it's going to be harder later. Just like you don't want to version APIs in order to sort of get APIs up to the standard that are already out there. You're going to have to get them versioned by the people who own them later on, and that's always a harder thing, especially once customers are on APIs. That's a bad time to have to try and govern them. So, yeah.
And of course, trust me, most of our customers have a legacy problem similar to you, where basically they inherited a lot of bad APIs. So fundamentally, the number one problem that they have is basically trying to understand in a very automated way how good or bad those APIs are and how to quickly automate that. And like I mentioned, we do help a lot there and tremendously. But I definitely agree doing it sooner rather than later. Even if you have one rule or three rules, I would rather start with that, just because people need some time getting used to basically implementing these rules, checking the workflow, and a lot of other stuff. I know we're running a bit over time because I want to get the questions. We've got around 4 questions, so we're gonna go through them live. Harsha, you want to start with the first one?
I can, yeah, I can do the questions here. The first one is for Gareth. Do you govern only via CI static rule sets? Question. That's it. So I'm guessing people want to know if the governance model you have running today is only via your CLI or static rule sets that you have against OpenAPI.
Well, that's the way we give that to people, yeah. But I mean, we're constantly updating that against the guidelines. It's a living thing.
Got it.
Yeah. So at the moment, yeah, that's how we do it. But
Oh,
we
nice.
also, I mean, it's also in the, so we actually haven't, rather than, so they connect up their CI/CD pipelines in terms of each provider to an API that we have, a deploy API, and that is where we do an automated check as well.
No, thank you. The next one here is, in large organizations with hundreds of APIs, how do you prioritize which API standards or rules to automate first? Yeah, good one. So, Gareth, you want to take a go first?
The easy ones to automate.
So
Easy ones to
laziness.
automate. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, that's
Fair
basically
enough.
most product managers are pretty lazy. We just try and get the easy stuff out the door first. Yeah.
Okay. And maybe I think it'd be good to also hear. I think you mentioned some hundreds of rules. So, how over the course of how many years did you happen to build this playbook or a guidebook from going from 0 to 100? Or
Well, we
I
didn't
don't know.
go, so we didn't. So it actually it's pretty much as far I was before my time, so I inherited it. But when I started, it was basically a copy paste from Microsoft API guidelines,
Ah, okay, interesting.
and it's mostly been that we've adjusted them to our uh, environment.
Yeah,
And we've added patterns and especially as things, technology and stuff have evolved.
fair enough. We got the next one here. Uh, Regarding best industry practices, at what point does governance go too far? Is it a standard practice to have regular monthly or quarterly human reviews as well? Is there any API, let's say, I'm just interpreting the question here. Let's say you have a very important API, a money generating API. Is that looked at very closely? Are there human reviews that go through a COE or anyone else or the PM?
So all APIs are treated equally, but they're all revenue producing APIs, pretty much
Yeah,
the ones that go through us. So that's why they have to have, so because they're external facing and pretty much all have revenue somewhere in there, we treat them just as seriously as each other. I mean, some people say you should, treat internal and external the same, but I think that's not really practical.
yeah. And
I
are
see.
there, I think the second part of the question is, at what point does governance go too far? Is that something that you notice or?
Well, it's the balance, right? So you got to make sure that teams don't put out APIs that are going to conflict too much with other APIs in terms of what they look like. But at the same time, you need to be pragmatic sometimes. Like in terms of there might be, but you need to treat it as an exception, and everybody needs to know that that's an exception, rather than it, and maybe it might get fixed in another release or something like that. But yeah, so we try not to get too much in the way, but at the same time, yeah, there's obviously a reason we're here doing what we do. It's not
I see.
not just for fun.
Thank you. Next one, let's switch it up for Vedran. Can Treblle help me automate the governance part based on what you showed before, maybe?
I assume. So we do have both a design and runtime governance product that basically allows you to do something what Gareth is doing. So first and foremost, we've got the design time product can be installed locally on your Mac as a native app or a Windows or CLI or VS Code extension. So your producers, mostly developers, can actually get the feedback before it even goes to the pipeline. And then we do have our CLI tool that basically checks the pipeline actively. And when you do go at runtime, we actually measure this on every single request. So we actually validate those governance rules on every single request. The beauty of it is, like we showed you, similar. We have a bit of an upgraded UI than what Gareth uses. So we do have that scoring. It goes from 0 to 100 or A, B, C, D, E, F. And you can basically figure out very, very quickly without actually being technical at all how good or bad somebody's doing. And it fully supports all the spectral rules. So I think we can, but check out, you have more information on our website.
Thank you. Last one from Mark here. I have a question about the OpenAPI template. The way I do it is to have a JSON file with each field that must be filled in with instructions on how to fill in that field. So you open that JSON file and override the instructions to complete the fields in the OpenAPI. Is there a better way for this? Vedran, you want to go for this? And
Oh
Gareth
man,
can
I'm gonna
also
make a
share.
joke and say use AI. But in all seriousness, we I don't know if I mentioned this to Mark, but we are working on a way to simplify this dramatically with AI and natural language. There are probably other products as well, but unfortunately, the part of this kind of experience is the reason why most people hate doing that. I don't know of any other magical way of doing it. You're actually doing it quite interestingly, having like a shared template. I've seen people do that on Git. I've seen people kind of create that file when they're starting a new project, so it's a part of every single API they create, and then they kind of build on top of that. I've seen some automations, I've seen some fancy tooling that basically generate parts of it, but nothing like, for example, what I think AI would be able to do here.
And
Gareth, you?
yeah, well, I guess this is where potentially type spec sort of comes in as well, because you
Yeah.
can, if you've already kind of designed it there, although I don't like the fact that you have to basically be a developer to design a spec.
Yeah, that
Anyway,
is true.
so you're not getting away from it, you're just shifting it to a different interface. But there's lots of ways you can modularize the whole process so that you're not actually reinventing the wheel all the time, and it spits out OpenAPI specs that are within your guidelines. So
Okay. That, I believe, Harsha, brings us to an end. I know we're a bit overboard. I appreciate everybody joining in. I appreciate Gareth, you taking the time and educating us on how LSEG thinks about governance. What are some of the key principles around outcome-driven API governance? Anything you guys want to say as a closing thought?
I'll let Gareth go first.
See you at API Days Paris if you come.
Oh yeah, good one. You're gonna have a talk there, right?
I am, yes.
So let's make Garrett's talk the most popular one, and see you all there. We will also be there. We're going to be presenting our new anatomy of an API report, which is coming out literally on API Days. For the first time, we're going to have a printed edition. So I'll also see you there. Harsha, anything from your side?
We are going to be releasing our new report very soon, which has a lot more real world stats about governance, APIs, and of course AI. As a closing thought, I asked AI what AI thinks about API governance, and this is what it told me. In the AI economy, APIs are your infrastructure. If you can't govern them, you can't trust them. So I guess we need to keep working on that. And
Wise words. Did you go to like a philosophical one? Which one of the
They're all pretty
AIs?
philosophical, aren't they?
Yeah,
everything is philosophical, but this was Cloud. I asked him to
think
give me, just like code, give me production ready code. So
I think that a lot of people would say that API governance is philosophical, and I think we're going to leave it at that. So thank you everybody for joining in. I really appreciate it. See you on the next one. Bye.
bye all.
Bye.